from Paramount Pictures and Nickelodeon Movies.
Hang on, everyone!
This Christmas, get ready to blast.
I may be small, but I've got a big brain!
You know, for a nerd, he sure comes in handy.
Jimmy Neutron, boy genius.
I didn't think we liked girls yet, Jim.
Oh, we don't, no.
Okay.
Not yet, no.
Welcome back to Kris Vents. I'm your host, back with Dom, the disembodied Discord voice, and today we're talking about something at Dom's special request. A special movie from his childhood, as it is the first movie he remembers seeing in a movie theater. Jimmy Neutron! And unlike G-Force and B-Movie, I actually have seen Jimmy Neutron, at least prior to seeing to rewatching it for this video. I remember when I was in the 4th grade, my class took a trip to Chicago for a day, and it was a Greyhound, and it had a DVD player and TV screen, so you could watch movies, and somebody brought Jimmy Neutron, and I just completely blocked all memory of it prior to this video. All I remembered was Jimmy Neutron's big-ass head. Dom, did you happen to retain any information?
I'm glad you asked, Chris. As it happens, the only thing I recall, besides the general premise, which I had to look, which just came from looking up, is there's a scene where Jimmy Neutron blows on his ship and sends it flying. And I don't know why that is the only thing that I recall, but it is. Did that happen, or am I missing?
That did happen.
Okay.
I will provide context for that when we get to it.
And that is the only thing. Like, if G-Force was a long time ago, 2009, this was 2001-ish? So 2 decades.
Christmas Eve of 2001 is when this movie came out in theaters.
Okay, so let's say over 19 years ago. So, a long freaking time ago.
Yes.
For us, at least.
Long enough to where it was actually, and I was just looking this up prior to us starting this up, apparently it was one of a number of movies nominated for the very first Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. It didn't win, but it was nominated.
Well, not a lot of competition.
No, it actually lost to Shrek.
That I didn't see. I kind of remember people talking about it, but I just never caught it.
I actually did see Shrek in theaters.
And you recall?
Yeah, I remember quite a bit, because I watched it quite a few times throughout my childhood. Actually, I remember my dad taking my sisters and I to see it twice.
Well, we're not reviewing Shrek, so let's get into it.
So, Jimmy Neutron, he's an 11-year-old boy with a triple-digit IQ who has a laboratory under his parents' house, like he's Dexter.
Well, isn't anyone with an IQ of 100, which is the average or higher, going to have a triple-digit IQ?
Yeah, well, I think Jimmy's is somewhere in the 300s. Like, he's at least got a Bruce Wayne, Tony Stark level IQ, if he's making all of his own inventions.
Yeah, I recall that. I remember watching the show occasionally when I was young. It wasn't like my favorite show, but I guess I was amused enough by it.
Up until a few months ago, I didn't even know there was a Jimmy Neutron show, because Nickelodeon was not my go-to network when I was a kid. Back then the only two shows I was watching on Nickelodeon back then were SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents, both of which I grew out of by the 6th grade.
You knew there was a movie, but you didn't know there was a show of the movie?
No.
That's kind of weird. That'd be like if you saw the Simpsons movie and years later found out, wait, there's a show?
Yeah. It was like, well, back then, let's see, 2001. I was watching Ed and Eddie for the most part. That was my show back then. But getting back to Jimmy, I love his introduction to the movie because it opens on an Air Force base and they see like a bogey blip on their radar. So they scramble some fighter jets to go and figure out what it is. Turns out it's a homemade rocket made by Jimmy, and he and his buddy Carl Weezer, who is called Weezer because he's got an inhaler, and he's kind of the overweight, under enthusiastic, just the guy that you bring along on some shenanigans who does not want to be in there at all.
You know the character.
That guy. Yeah. So Jimmy and Carl are in this homemade rocket trying to deploy a homemade satellite. A satellite that is made out of a toaster and a spatula. I love that intro. Like, Jimmy can build a satellite out of a toaster and a spatula. He can build a robot dog, which he does, whose name is Goddard. I think that's scientifically significant. I have no idea. I mean, his full name, Jimmy Neutron's full name is, as we are informed by his mother at least 3 times in the movie, is James Isaac Neutron. So, make of that what you will. My little brain fart kind of just gave that away.
I just looked it up. Goddard is named after Robert H. Goddard, an American physicist, credited with creating and building the world's first liquid-fueled rocket.
That makes even more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he can build a satellite, he can build a robot dog, he can build a rocket ship, but he can never make the school bus on time.
Oh, yeah, that's going to make him relatable, you see.
Yeah, especially because he is kind of the social outcast, because the main character of every kids movie in the history of ever is the social outcast, because somehow that plus question mark equals instant relatability.
I'm trying to think of some counterexample, and I can't.
Yeah, like every kids movie I've ever seen where they have the kids as main characters, they're social outcasts. And kids and even family related movies like Home Alone, which I love Home Alone, but Kevin McAllister does not get along with his own family enough to where he wishes they would just disappear.
Well, sometimes they say the character is a social outcast, but then he's not really. Like, he still has a whole bunch of friends and everything.
Yeah, and in Jimmy Neutron's case, he's got Carl, and he's got this guy named Sheen who is obsessed with this in-universe superhero character, Ultraman. Like, obnoxiously obsessed with Ultraman. Who in the movie is voiced by Jim Cummings, because of course he is.
I actually, just in the movie.
In the movie, Ultraman is voiced by Jim Cummings. I don't know if that becomes a thing in the show, so don't ask me to try to clear that up. One of the first dilemmas we're presented with in the movie is the kids want to go to the grand opening of this new local amusement park called Retroland, because they live in a town called Retroville. That plus question mark. And problem is that the grand opening of said amusement park is happening on a school night, which already sounds counterproductive. Why would you want to have the grand opening of an amusement park on a school night when you could have it open on Friday and make maximum bank? You know, there's a reason the big blockbusters open on Thursday nights, and I say this as a former movie theater employee. Thursday nights and Friday nights, you can maximize your profits over the weekend when everyone has free time.
Well, then the plot wouldn't exist. That's why.
Yeah. So Jimmy tries to get permission from his mother to go, tries to bribe her with flattery and with homegrown pearls, because I guess he has a clam tank in his little secret Dexter's laboratory. But his backpack slash jetpack, because of course he's got that. I wish I had one of those when I was in school. Malfunctions and lights the drapes on fire, so he gets insta grounded. And he decides to sneak out because the popular kid. Yeah, there. Of course, this is a kids' movie, so there's a popular kid, and of course he acts too cool for school. It's 2001, so he's got that Nick Carter, Leon Kennedy curtain haircut. Dude encourages Jimmy and his buddies to sneak out of the house, and they do. And while they're out, they see what looks like a shooting star, and so Jimmy wishes that all their parents would just disappear, Kevin McAllister style. His satellite, that little toaster spatula satellite he made, gets picked up by an alien race, like these egg-like aliens called Yolkians from the planet Yolkus, and their king, King Goobot the Fifth, who is played by Patrick Stewart because reasons. He finds Jimmy recorded a little message for any aliens that might have picked up the satellite. Goobot, and I'm never going to be able to say that name with a straight face. Goobot catches an image of his parents of Jimmy's parents on the message and is like, "We need to go to that planet." And so they go to Earth and abduct every parent in Gooville, or in Retroville.
I'm trying to figure out if this is bringing back memories, or if that's just my brain trying to fabricate memories. Why did he kidnap? Just because he heard
Well,
Jimmy.
it's later revealed that they need to make regular sacrifices to their god Pultra, who is a giant three-headed or three-eyed chicken. And so the parents make perfect sacrifices, I guess. They're supposed to.
All right.
Yeah, sound logic there. So it's like day one, all the parents are gone. And all the kids are like, "Fuck yeah!" And they just party until the next day, where they're like, "Oh crap, I actually want my parents back." So Jimmy finds out about the message, or finds out that his satellite's been intercepted, and goes to start making a rocket a new rocket, because the old one crashed on the roof of his house. And apparently this is a common occurrence, enough to where his dad, who is a complete dope, is just like, "Oh, that's our Jimmy." That's not an actual line in the movie, but it might as well be. So the kids all find out that they all find out about the satellite and about the aliens, because Sheen can't keep his mouth shut. And so Jimmy Neutron gets this entire army of the neighborhood kids together to build a fleet of spaceships out of all the rides in Retroland so they can go out to Yolkus to get their parents back. By the way, I love the fact that they build all these crazy spaceships out of these theme park rides, but nobody goes into space wearing protective gear to keep them from dying in the freezing vacuum of space. And this never once becomes a problem.
I actually remember that being the subject of a gag in the show, where Sheen asked Jimmy, "Hey, how come we don't have to wear spacesuits or anything while they're in space?" And as Jimmy's explaining it, it just cuts to Carl singing something. So you never hear that explanation.
Because reasons, that's why.
But I'm going to assume it doesn't get addressed at all in the movie.
Never once. In fact, somewhere around the midway point of their trip, they even set up camp for the night on an asteroid. Still no protective gear. There's no atmosphere on this asteroid.
Gravity would be strong enough to keep you attached.
Yeah, but is there enough of an atmosphere to maintain a campfire? Because they build a campfire and start telling ghost stories.
Well, it's a movie. Who cares?
Yeah, the ghost story they tell, by the way, is almost verbatim the plot from the Blair Witch Project. I'm not kidding.
Maybe it's a reference. It was released just a few years afterwards.
Yeah, there's that. So they get to Yulkus. They get their parents back. Their parents, who, by the way, are wearing these big, gaudy mind control devices on their heads. So Jimmy has to hijack the parental control device. That's what I'm calling it because it just fits. The parental control device to get them back to guide them over to this one spaceship where they lead them on a chase to the sun. Just so that Jimmy can drop this one-liner.
Who wants fried chicken?
And then some of the Yolkian ships blow up from solar flares. Like, okay, then. And then there's a recurring gag in this movie about Jimmy being short, even though he's 11 years old. He doesn't have to be 6'2" at 11. Like, there's a thing called growth spurts. And so, and Goobot, at one point, King Goobot drops an insult on Jimmy about his height. So Jimmy decides to go out into space, riding Goddard as a jet bike, charges the King's ship, and then uses this shrink ray device he created to make himself the size of a planet. And you were saying you remember where he blows on a ship? He does. He blows on Goobot's ship,
sending it flying into an asteroid.
Okay, so that is the one and only scene that I can connect to. Still with me. At 19 years, it is the oldest memory I have of a film ever.
And hey, one of the first movies I remember seeing in the theater was The Lost World Jurassic Park. So the scene with the trailers on the cliff and the guy getting ripped in half by the Tyrannosaurus, by the two T-Rexes, that stuck with me for years. So Jimmy Neutron, I would put it between, as I was telling you before, Dom, I would put it between G-Force and B-Movie. It has a better fleshed out narrative than B-Movie does, but I find kids annoying.
Yeah,
I find kids annoying, and so G-Force focusing on secret agent guinea pigs and less on kids, I found more appealing than this.
That's fair. So the plot, acceptable for a kids' film. I assume the same goes for the soundtrack, the writing, the voice acting.
Yeah, the writing and the acting's fine. The music, I mean, it's 2001 kids pop music. Take it or leave it. The animation, I guess, is it for 2001. I mean, it hasn't really aged all that well for me. But I can accept it for the way it was, the way CG animation was at the time. It's better than a lot of movies that popped up around that time period trying to cash in on the whole Disney DreamWorks craze. And on a $30 million budget, it could look a lot worse. I mean, it's only 83 minutes long, so if you got Netflix, I would more enthusiastically say put this on for your kids than put on B-Movie.
I'm gonna have to agree, even if B-Movie is more memeable. Jimmy Neutron. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, that about sums it up. So that's gonna do it for this week's edition of Kris Vents, and we'll see you guys next time.